Hey everyone, welcome to Waterwise Landscapes with Automobile, featuring berries, bark, and beauty. This is brought to you by Parker Water and Sanitation District from your water resource team. And I'm Heather Johnson. I'm the water efficiency specialist here at Parker Water. First of all, I wanted to know if you had a favorite fall plant. I know a lot of people have a favorite fall plant. Some people like the maples that change colors. Other people love seeing the asters and the mums that are in season. Some people love that bright golden color of the goldenrod. My favorite personally are the maples. I love how they change a bright red color. I love the shape of the maple leaves. They're one of my favorites. I grew up in Vermont, and so I have a special place in my heart for maple leaves. Why do leaves change color in the fall? Mostly it has to do with the shortening of the days. As the amount of daylight decreases, it triggers chlorophyll to break down in the leaves. And as chlorophyll breaks down, chlorophyll is what gives it that nice green pigment. What happens is underneath, you'll see a different pigment. You'll see the carotenoids and flavonoids, which are yellow and orange, and they'll appear underneath that green as the green decreases and breaks down. And then if you want, when you see red color, those are from anthocyanins. And what happens there is as those veins start to close in the fall in the leaf, what it does is it traps sugar in the leaf, and the sugars, as they're trapped in the leaves, change the leaves a bright red color. Let's talk a little bit about drought on the aspens. Right now, everyone's headed up to the mountains to see the aspens. They're turning a bright yellow color. But if you had seen a little bit of yellow a few weeks ago, that probably was more of an indication of drought caused necrosis. And necrosis just means cell death. And as you can see in this picture right here of these aspen leaves, that brownish yellow color is called necrosis, and that's caused from drought and stress on the tree. What happens when we have drought? In this picture on the left, you'll see some currant leaves, and you can see there's some necrosis on the edges of this tree. It's suffering from a little bit of drought. Drought on plants, if there's just a mild drought or there's a couple of years of drought, the plant can withstand a little bit of drought. And so you might see a little bit of early color change, and you might see a little bit of leaf drop. But if drought is severe or if it lasts a long time, you may see the leaves just not even change color. They may just drop really early. So drought really does affect our plants. So what is our drought outlook right now? This was taken September 2nd, this data. We can see here we have a little bit of drought, a little abnormally dry conditions in Douglas County here. And here's our seasonal temperature outlook for September, October, and November. And the outlook looks like it's unseasonably warm here, a little bit high. And then let's look also at the precipitation outlook. And when we look at the precipitation outlook, these are estimates that it will be a little bit below average for precipitation in our area. So how do we protect our landscape from drought conditions? One of the most important things that we can do is to make sure that we have a healthy amount of mulch. About 3 to 4 inches of mulch will be a great addition to your landscape. What it does is it helps retain moisture in your garden and prevents evaporation of moisture. The other thing we can do is we can use adapted plants. There are certainly a great number of plants that do well under drought conditions. They can withstand periods of low water. There's so many great xeric plants that you can add to your landscape. Third, we can water deeply. When we do deep watering, it encourages roots to grow deep into the soil. And so when you do have those periods of drought, those deep roots can look for the excess moisture down deep. When roots are left on the surface or are not trained to grow deeply, then when you do see drought conditions, those plants will really suffer. The other thing is healthy soils are so important to keeping plants healthy. Make sure that your soil has organic matter and has a good healthy composition, because healthy soils equal healthy plants, and healthy plants can withstand drought conditions better. And then finally, monitor your plants. Just keep an eye on things. If there's a plant that looks like it's a little bit stressed because it's not receiving a little water, put a hose on that plant. Just look around your landscape and monitor it for signs of stress. Here's our fall watering guide. In September, we want to make sure we're watering at least twice a week for turf, but by October, we should be turning those sprinkler systems off. It's time to start winterizing your sprinkler system, and it's also a good time to just hand water as necessary, because sometimes we have late heat in October here in Colorado, and sometimes if we turn our sprinklers off a little early and we don't monitor and hand water as necessary, then our plants can be stressed. So make sure you're watching your landscape, and if we do have unseasonably warm temperatures and not enough precipitation, get that hose out and give your plants a little bit of water. Here at Parker Water, we have a new customer care portal coming to us here in October. I believe it's the 22nd that it will be up and running. And this portal is a great way to monitor your water use. It will be a one-stop shop for you to look for leaks, watch to see how much water you're putting on the ground, make your payments. It should be very helpful in managing how much water you're putting on your landscape and what you're using in your household. So be sure to watch out for that. Check our website and we'll have a lot more information on that. Okay, fall is the best time to plant. And there's a couple of reasons why fall is the best time to plant. First of all, we have much cooler temperatures. You're not getting those really high temperatures that really stress plants out. Second, we have root-focused growth. Because the plant's not trying to send up a bunch of new leaves and a new growth to make seeds and to reproduce, it's focused on sending its roots deep down into the ground. And as we know, deep roots equal healthy plants. And finally, in the fall, we get a little bit more water. We just have more precipitation, and then that helps the plant get more established because it has a lot less stress on it. And then finally, if you are looking for great deals, fall is the time to go to the nurseries, because a lot of the nurseries are doing 40–30% off their plants, and you can get a really good deal. Some fall gardening tasks. Like I said, the best time to plant trees and shrubs and perennials is the fall. The next one is divide perennials. If you have some perennials that are getting a little large, or some grasses that are getting holes in the center, they need to be divided, and it's a great time to do that. It's easy to do it. The plants are a lot less stressed when you do it in the fall. So make sure you divide those perennials. Talk to your neighbors about what they're dividing, and then maybe you can share some of yours and do a little swap. Also, it's a great time to fertilize and mulch. Make sure your mulch is up. You've got that 3 inches of mulch, and if you don't, if some of it has blown away or some of it has been incorporated into soil, add a little bit more mulch. Fall is a great time to shut off your irrigation. Make sure you're blowing those irrigation systems out so that they don't freeze and cause breakage in your irrigation system over the winter. Next, let's remove those diseased leaves. We can go through our garden and pull out any leaves that have fungus or have disease, blight, or other diseases on them. Make sure that these leaves, they go in the trash and not in your compost pile, because we don't want to introduce those diseases into your soil. Also, make sure you do a deep water on your trees and shrubs, because trees and shrubs need water in the fall and they need it in the winter, and it's important to give them a nice deep watering before you shut off that irrigation system. Next, I always recommend cleaning your tools in fall, putting them away for winter, make sure that they're ready for spring. And then also, planting bulbs is the best fall task. I love planting bulbs because then you have something to look forward to in spring. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about the 7 principles of Coloradoscaping. So these are based off of xeriscaping principles, and Coloradoscaping is just another term for xeriscaping. The first principle is planning and design. It's one of the most important aspects of xeriscaping, because making sure that your landscape is sustainable and that it functions well really takes a good plan and good design. It's easy to go out there to your landscape and just want to put in plants here and there. But what will happen is that you'll make mistakes, you'll put things where they don't belong. There's just a lot of things that could go wrong. So just make sure that you take the time to sit down, kind of draw out your landscape, kind of draw out where you want things to go. The next thing is soil improvement. As we know, soil makes for healthy plants. Soil also retains, healthy soils retain water and hold water better. So make sure that you're getting some organic matter into your soils. Make sure you have good drainage in your soils. Make sure your soils are healthy. Another principle of Coloradoscaping is efficient irrigation. So, and we do that by hydrozoning. And hydrozoning is basically putting plants of similar water needs together so that we can irrigate them together on the same zone and not waste water. If we have low water plants mixed with high water need plants, you're always going to have to irrigate to the highest need. And that means that those plants that don't require as much water are going to get overwatered, and it's just then you end up wasting water. So it's important to plant plants with similar water needs together. And that goes with that appropriate plant selection and hydrozoning, which is the next principles. Also mulching, there are lots of different options for mulching. You can do organic or inorganic mulching, but mulching really does help retain moisture. It also helps reduce disease, reduce the number of weeds. It also helps maintain soil temperature so that you don't get those spikes in high temperatures and low temperatures. It really helps moderate the temperature of the soil. The next principle is limit turf areas. The reason why this is on there is that when you're thinking about your garden and your landscape, there are definitely areas that we don't use as much. And Kentucky bluegrass, although it can look really nice in certain areas, and I'm not saying get rid of your Kentucky bluegrass in your landscape, I'm just suggesting that you think about areas where you might not use it, because Kentucky bluegrass does take a lot of water. And if you're not using maybe your front yard or your side yards, then you should target those areas to transform into something different. So this is my front yard in the picture to the left, and I was not using my front yard, and it had a bunch of Kentucky bluegrass, and the Kentucky bluegrass did not look good because this is southern southwest exposure. It's getting a lot of heat, it's getting a lot of sun, and that grass just never looked good. So I decided to take it out and plant this perennial garden instead. And then also maintenance is so important to having a beautiful Coloradoscape. The reason why I put maintenance on there is because although you're taking out turf grass requires mowing and irrigating and trimming and fertilizing and aerating. Just because you convert it to something different, such as Coloradoscaping, doesn't mean that there's no maintenance. There's definitely maintenance. It's just different type of maintenance. Instead of going out on the weekends with my mower, I go out and pull a few weeds, I trim a few things down, I add mulch here and there. So it's not no maintenance, it's just a different type of maintenance. Okay, I wanted to show you a little bit more of a picture of what hydrozoning can look like. So in this picture to the left, I've created a landscape where you can see it has some high water use turf in the front, and then some moderate water use, some low water use on the sides, and then in the back, another high water use. Our goal here is to irrigate these separately on separate zones. So you want your high water use areas to be on one sprinkler zone. You want your moderate use to be on a different sprinkler zone, and you want your low water use to be on a final sprinkler zone. That way you can irrigate to the need of the plant. If you're considering removing some areas for like removing some turf and putting in some xeriscaping or Coloradoscaping, some areas I would prioritize are slopes, because slopes are really difficult to water efficiently. Water will slide right off slopes, so you're going to be putting a lot of it on there. Also look for areas that get southern and western exposures. Those are really hot, sunny areas. And like I said, turf grass really struggles in those areas, and they are great areas to transform into Coloradoscape. And then also look for those weird, awkward areas where you have a weird shaped lawn where it's really difficult to water it efficiently. And then think about how you might be able to take that turf out and transform it into maybe some low ground cover or something different. Let's talk a little bit about design for fall impact. So here are 4 principles that I think are important for a good fall landscape. I think you need to have some appeal. You need to have plants that are going to strike your interest, that have bright colors, that have cool textures. You definitely need some really cool appeal. Next, I think every landscape needs a focal point, something for you to look at, something for your eyes to gaze at. In that top left picture, that maple there is so bright and your eyes go right to it, especially when you have that green background that kind of is a contrast color for that red. So look at for a beautiful focal point for your landscape. Next, layering is so important. It's important to create depth in your landscape, to create interest. Make sure you have a depth of height where you have some higher things, some medium things, some lower things, so your eye kind of moves throughout your landscape. So layering is really important. And then also, finally, when you're designing your landscape, make sure you plant for some biodiversity. And how we get biodiversity in our landscape is to think about the plants you're putting in your landscape and adding in plants that provide different needs for different pollinators or birds or different mammals that may need seeds or nectar or different things that plants provide. So think about what you're putting in your landscape and how it might be beneficial for the wildlife. So on a walk in my neighborhood, I came across this house on the left. It was pretty bare and does not have a lot of appeal. And then I saw this house, and although it could use a little maintenance here to clean it up a little bit, it really does have a lot of appeal in it. It has a really cool pathway that goes through there. There's a cool tree that kind of gives it some height to the landscape, some interest above the doorway, and you've got these great little perennial gardens. But I thought we could make these even better, so I'm going to show you what they could look like. Here on the left, I just put in some trees to kind of add some height to the landscape, and then some perennials and some grasses and a boulder in there. So it has a lot more interest. It creates a nice warm feeling for the home, makes it more inviting. On the right, I took that landscape that already had a lot of interest in it and a lot of appeal, and then added just a little bit more color. So adding in a few fall blooming perennials and some grasses and a beautiful shrub in the by the garage that's bright red that kind of contrasts with the green of the house. So just adding a little bit of fall interest really makes this landscape pop. Here are some good examples of focal point. In the top, we see that bright red maple. We see another, I think it might be a columnar oak, but it could be something else. But it's got that beautiful yellow color, yellow orangey color, and it also is a beautiful focal point. So these are things that your eyes automatically go to. Down below is this rudbeckia. I saw this when I was walking, and it was in one of my neighbor's yards, and I saw it from about a block away. It was so beautiful, so bright, and my eyes definitely went towards this rudbeckia. So it's one of those plants that I think every landscape needs a little piece of rudbeckia in it. Here are a couple pictures from my own personal landscape where I tried to create some layering effects with some low groundwater, not groundwater, ground cover. And then I added in some medium-sized perennials and then some taller grasses and some shrubs in there. Over here on the left, I've got some ice plants, some nice grasses, and then those boulders create a different texture and add a medium-sized height in there. And then finally, I have that redbud tree that's a baby, but it's growing, but it adds a lot of interest in layering. It adds that height aspect. So think about your landscape and how you can do some layering to create interest and to create some depth in the landscape. Here's a couple examples that I pulled that show some good layering, shows some interest. So it's a couple focal points in here. So these are some good examples to look at. Give you a second to look at those. Okay, let's talk a little bit about biodiversity. So if we add more diversity of plants to our landscape, we're going to provide more diversity of beneficial uh, uh, elements for pollinators, wildlife, and different animals that come into our landscape. What I would say, though, is that think about the plants that you're planting and try not to do one of every type of plant. Because even though that's high biodiversity of plants, it is somewhat hard on wildlife that comes to your landscape. They like to have a critical mass of plants to come because they spend a lot of energy looking for the plants that are beneficial to them. And if there's a critical mass of plants, that makes it a little easier on them to gather what they need. So I like to make a plan, think about the plants that you're planting, and plant in mass. Okay, let's talk a little bit about right plant, right space, right water. So this picture is a 7th Sense tree. It is a newer plant species that has been introduced from Plant Select. It's one of those, it's a company here that highlights plants that are good for growing in Colorado. They bring in some new type of varieties of plants. They highlight plants that do really well here. This one was one of their recommendations one year, and so I planted this in my front yard. And my front yard, like I said, has southern and western exposure. It gets really hot, and it really struggled. It struggled a lot. Every time I went out there, the leaves were dying, they were falling off, they were crumpled up, they were brown. It did not look good. So I decided to dig it up and put it into my backyard, which receives a lot less sunlight. It's more dappled shade. And this year, this is what it looks like. It's healthy. The leaves are healthy. It's blooming right now. It's a fall bloomer. And it is looking good. So it just was in the wrong, it was a good plant, but just in the wrong space. It does need a little bit more water than I had been giving it in the front yard too. So if you can get those things right, the right plant, the right space, the right water, your plants will thrive. Drink water here. Okay, let's talk about foliage for fall impact. Here's two great examples of some beautiful fall foliage. Above, we have the serviceberry or Amelanchier alnifolia. It turns this beautiful red color in the fall. We also have a ginkgo biloba. It turns that bright golden color that everyone recognizes. It looks great. It's a great low water tree for landscapes here in Colorado. I've created a little plant key for you to, or the plants that I'm going to show you next. You can look these over. The one single water droplet is 1/2 inch every 10 to 14 days. So it's a very low water plant. Some of them don't require any water, but I group them all with this one water droplet. If you see 2 water droplets, that's 1/2 inch every 7 to 10 days. The bird equals native plant. The skull and crossbones is poison, and then the pot is a representation of berries that are not for raw consumption. You need to heat them up and before they will be edible. On the left is hardy plumbago. This is a great plant for shady areas, woodland areas. It blooms in the late summer, early fall, and it turns these beautiful red, purpley colors on the leaves in the fall. Okay, now this is not a comprehensive list of beautiful fall foliage. This is just some of the ones I wanted to highlight today. Let's start with Oregon grape. Oregon grape is a native here. It has 3 seasons of interest. In spring, it gets bright yellow flowers, and the summer it has these beautiful berries that come out, and then in the fall, the leaves turn a beautiful red, purplish color. And it's an evergreen. It keeps its leaves all year. It's a great one for wildlife, and it's very hardy. It does well pretty much anywhere. It will do well in sun and in shade. This serviceberry is a great option. It's also a native here. There are different types of serviceberries. Some are single trees, some have multi-stems. You can get different heights of serviceberry, but they are a beautiful plant. They're a great little specimen tree for a front yard. I just really like surf space. You get that beautiful spring flower, and then you get this beautiful color in the fall. Emmer maple is probably one of the best maples for Colorado. It turns this beautiful red color in the fall. It's a medium-sized tree. It does well in front yards. It's just a great plant. The next one are hens and chick. This is a succulent. These are very low waters and very low to the ground. They do well in crevice gardens or rock gardens. They do well as a ground cover. You can also plant them in pots. They do okay in pots. And they turn this beautiful red color in the fall. Next, we have smooth sumac. This is a native, and it turns a bright red color. It's hard to miss these when they turn color because they're so striking. The bark also pops when those leaves are bright red. It's got a cool shape. The leaves are kind of a cool look, and they have a really nice berry, kind of in a cone shape. Really cool, fuzzy little berries. Next, we have the ginkgo biloba. Like I said before, it just has that bright golden color, and it's so pretty in a fall landscape. Here is another succulent. This is stonecrop. This is a type of sedum. There are a lot of different varieties of sedum. This one is the coral carpet stonecrop. It's a great ground cover. It does well in rock gardens. It is very low water, and it does turn this really pretty color in the fall. Next, we have gamble oak. Gamble oak is a native, and they turn a kind of an orangey brown color, but really kind of a lot of interest. They also get those beautiful acorns. They are a medium-sized tree. Sometimes you can grow more like a shrub, but they're just a great plant. I love an oak in a landscape. I think every landscape needs a little bit of oak in there. This is a good native variety. Next, we have golden currants. This is a great shrub for your landscape. They provide a lot of benefit to wildlife and birds, and they turn a beautiful red color in the fall, and those berries are very striking too. Next, we have western sand cherry. This is a great lower height shrub. It is good on slopes. It is a good native shrub that turns a beautiful red color in the fall. Here we have autumn amber sumac, and it just has a really pretty color. You get that red against that kind of orangey green, and it's really striking. It's very low water. It does really well in the landscape. You can plant it in sun and partial shade. It's just a really great shrub. It's a good medium background plant for things that you want to plant in front of it. It's just a great plant for the landscape. Next, we have heartleaf Virginia or pig squeak. It has those bright, waxy, big leaves, and they do turn a beautiful red color in the fall. This plant does well in some shade. I have it planted in my yard in kind of a woodlandy area. Looks really good there. It gets a pink flower in spring too. Next, we have sulfur flower buckwheat. This is one of the best natives for landscapes. It just has 3 seasons of interest, and it's evergreen. It doesn't lose its leaves. It just changes color. So in the spring, spring it's bright green, and then you get a beautiful yellow flower that comes up. Very, very low water, pretty hardy. And then in the fall and winter, you get this bright red leaf color change. Next, we have big tooth maple. This is a great maple, native maple to plant in your landscape. It's a medium-sized tree. You can get it multi-stem, and it just gets that beautiful red leaf color that's so common with maples. We also have chokeberry. This is more a shrub. It's good in natural areas, woodlandy areas. It provides a lot of benefit to wildlife because it produces a pretty nice berry on it, and it also provides a lot of fall color. Let's talk a little bit about berries. Let's talk first about the silver buffalo berry. This is a great native shrub. It has a very silvery leaf. It's a larger shrub, so it's good along fences, along property lines. It has a really nice bright red berry too. Very, very low water once established. Next, we have chokecherries. There are a lot of different varieties of chokecherries. There's a native chokecherry. These tend to grow pretty easily. Sometimes they do spread, and they can kind of create more like a hedge. You can also trim them down if you wanted to, but they provide a lot of benefits to birds and wildlife, like coyotes. You see coyotes eating these a lot. Beautiful berry. You can make a jelly out of the chokecherry if you're interested in doing that. Next, we have the red osier dogwood. This is a native shrub, though it needs a little bit more water. You tend to see this planted along waterways or in marshy areas. It has a bright white berry, but it is poisonous. Do not eat the white berry. Next, we have the elderberry. This is a native, and elderberries are known for their beautiful clusters of bright, dark berries. They are used for syrups and jams and pies and things like that. Really cool, taller, medium to large shrub. Next, we have cotoneaster. These berries are poisonous. It is an evergreen, and but those berries are really striking. A lot of cotoneasters are used for erosion control because there's a lot of low-growing varieties, and some of them have some thorns. So if you want to keep people out of certain areas, these are good to plant for those areas. Here is that smooth sumac I was talking about. This berry here, this is just a cluster of lots of little tiny berries, and they're very hairy, but they do dry really well, and then you can grind them down. They're used as spices in a lot of dishes, a lot of Mediterranean dishes, but their berries are so striking in the fall because of the cool shape. Next, we have the western sand cherry. You get these beautiful berries on this western sand cherry. They provide a lot of benefit to wildlife and birds, and they provide a lot of nutrients. Next, we have the snowberry. Snowberries are, you'll see these when you're out hiking. You won't miss them because of striking white berries. They're a great little medium-sized shrub for your landscape. They do nice and like woodlandy natural areas, and they do have that striking white berry in the fall. Next, I put in beautyberry. This is not a native, but these are grown primarily for that bright purple striking berry. They're moderately low water. They are a great shrub because they just provide a lot of interest. It's something really unique. I don't think you see this one very often, but it is a really cool shrub to plant in your landscape. Next, we have the Oregon grape, one of the best plants, I think, for landscapes because it's so versatile and it does provide seasonal interest. But those berries are edible. I've eaten them. They're very tart, but you can add sugar and make them into a jam or jelly if you wanted to. Let's talk next about bark as a design element. Here we have that dogwood, that bright red dogwood, and you cannot miss that bark when you see them, especially when they're planted in mass. Here it is on the left. It's bright. It's so pretty. I love when a bird lands on them in the fall or winter because it's such a striking scene. They do require a little bit more water, so make sure you plant them in an area that you might already have drainage in that area, and you need something that requires a little bit more water, like a dip in your landscape, or if you have a high water table or an area where they might get a little bit more water, that's where they do best. Here we have a yellow dogwood. This is not native, but it does have that similar effect where those bright yellow stems pop out and look really good when planted in mass. The next tree, this is a small specimen tree. It's called a paperbark maple. It's grown for that distinctive papery bark that curls up and looks so cool. It's shiny. It's kind of a cool auburn color. It's a small well, I would say like medium-sized maple tree. Um, it does best. It needs a little protection, but other than that, it's a good specimen tree for this area. Next, we have the greenleaf manzanita. It has a really cool mahogany bark on it, and it contrasts really well with that the sage color of the leaves. Next, we have nine bark. Nine bark comes in a lot of different shades of leaves. You can get it from burgundy to bright green to almost kind of a yellow limey green color. And it's grown for its bark because as those leaves drop, the bark of the stems is shown and they peel back. So you see different layers of the bark and you often get that bright red stem. So they're really kind of a cool shrub. A lot of people use these as screens because they're a good screening shrub. They're pretty hardy, they're hard to kill. They do well in landscapes here. All right, let's talk about aspens. Now, I love aspens. I love seeing them in the mountains, but I do not love seeing them in landscapes here down in the front because they are disease prone and they have a short lifespan and they cause issues in your landscape. Aspens are native, but they're native to the high mountain areas. They're not necessarily native to down here on the front. I do love the beautiful bark. It's such a cool feature, but I definitely tell people to think twice about planting them, especially because they set up suckers. They can be really difficult to maintain. And like I said, they're very prone to disease and a lot of people end up having to spend a lot of money taking them out and dealing with all the roots in their landscape. So here are a couple I saw on my walk. Out of this grouping of 4 aspens, we've got one that's dead. Oh, actually 2 that are dead. One that's kind of not doing well, and one that looks okay. But as you can see, they just don't last very long and they tend to disease and die. And then here's my neighbor. She has a couple aspens here on the side of her landscape, and I got all these little suckers popping up in my landscape over here. And I spent a lot of time taking those out, pulling them out every year, and more pop up. Actually, when your aspens are suckering a lot, it's indication that they're not healthy and that they're suffering from a disease or something that is stressing them out. Okay, let's talk about some fall interest and beauty. Let's talk about some grasses and seed heads and fall blooming perennials. Let's first talk about ornamental grasses. Every landscape needs ornamental grasses, in my opinion. They're so versatile. They add so much interest. They're great. They're very low water. They're easy to maintain. Here on the left, we have little blue stem. It's a native, and it turns out really cool, almost like a burgundy color against that kind of bluish color there. So it's a really cool contrast. It looks great. It's a good one to plant in your landscape. I would say top 10 plant for me. Then we have that green zebra grass. It has that really cool look to it where it has the light and the light stripes on that green leaf. It's really pretty. You can get it in a smaller dwarf variety or you can get it in the regular variety. It's like it grows to about 4 feet to 5 feet tall. Here we have pink muley grass, and this is just beautiful because of that bright pink color that comes out in fall. It's kind of whimsical. It's got a cool texture. It's a great plant. We next have blue graham grass. I love this native grass variety because of the seed head on there. It looks like little eyelashes. It's very striking. It looks good planted in mass. Next, we have fountain grasses. Fountain grasses are beautiful. They look great in the morning or in the evening when they catch the light. They're beautiful. They're whimsy. There's so many different varieties. They're usually a little lower variety, but you can get them from tiny little plants that are about a foot tall to 4 feet in height. Next, we have maiden grass. It's got a unique seed head. It's very upright. Lots of different varieties of maiden grass out there. Really great grass to plant in your landscape. We also have switchgrass. Switchgrass are very hardy. They're hard to kill. They look good. There is a native switchgrass variety. This switchgrass, the Shenandoah one, has that beautiful reddish color in the fall. Really cool ornamental grass for your landscape. Next, we have blue oil grass. This is planted for its bright blue color. It keeps that color year round, so it doesn't really turn brown. It keeps that blue color. It's really nice for the landscape. Here are a couple fruit and seed heads. Again, not comprehensive. There's so many different beautiful seed heads that add interest to your landscape, but some of the ones that I captured here are wild rose. It has those rose hips there. The false indigo has those cool pea seeds that are just a unique shape and color. Apache plume has those bright pink puffs, seed head puffs that look so great. Butterfly weed has those cool floating seeds there that come out. So cool to see. I love the mountain mahogany. I love the seed head on there. I love how curly it is. Coneflower always has a great seed head. There's so many just different plants that provide a lot of interest year round. Here's a list of some fall blooming natives. Again, not comprehensive, but it's just some that I wanted to mention. These zinnias are great for your landscape. They pretty much bloom all season. They're very low water. They provide a lot of beauty in your landscape. The chocolate flower does smell like chocolate. It's a great one to add to your landscape. It blooms late into the fall. Really cool plant. Blanket flower. It's just got that beautiful red and yellow color. It's hard to ignore that plant. It's really bright, sunny. Fire chalice is a low water, really low water native plant, and the hummingbirds love this plant. So if you plant this plant, you will be for sure to get hummingbirds come visiting your landscape. The Angelina daisy, if you cut down the dead or spent flowers, once they're done, it will continue to bloom all season. So this is a great one. Fall blooming perennials. There's so many perennials that bloom into the fall. These are just a few that I really like. I love all the hyssops out there. This is sunset hyssop, or Sonoran sunrise hyssop is a beautiful bubblegum pink kind of flower on that. There's so many different hyssops that bloom into the fall. The sunflower, the Maximilian sunflower is great. Whirling butterflies, asters, always have that bright purple. It's hard to ignore those in the fall when you see a mass of bright purple. Bloomyspirea is a shrub. It's not native, but it's such a cool shrub in the fall. It's very low water, and you get those bright blue flowers. The bees love this one. Salvia Maenites, if you trim this plant back, and you do have to trim it back, it will bloom continuously all through the summer and into fall. Okay, I just wanted to give a shout out to this plant. It's an autumn blooming clematis. It is very hardy. It's stunning. And if you're lucky, you'll get to smell the scent because it has a beautiful scent. And this one's just a good one to add. You do need some support, a trellis, a fence, somewhere, a pergola, something for this to climb up. But it's such a beautiful plant. You should definitely put this in your landscape. Okay, some design tips. These are my design tips. I would suggest you keep your plant list simple. It's easy to want to plant one of everything in your landscape. And I'm probably one of the worst at this because as a plant lover, I love to add in something new, see how it goes in my landscape. I often end up giving plants to my neighbors, but I really enjoy plants. But I would keep the plant list simple. When you have a smaller number of plants, but plant them in mass, it just provides that beauty in your landscape. It helps with just giving an overall feel to the landscape, creating less chaos. It's just a good design practice. I would also repeat plant choices throughout your space. Put a little grouping here, put another little grouping over on the other side. Repeat the colors in your landscape so your eye has, it just makes for a more pleasant experience. If you can't repeat the plant, try to repeat the color. So you might So if you had a pink plant and you needed to add some more pink to the other side, think of another plant that might provide that, and it just creates more uniformity in your landscape. Make sure you plant for the mature side and don't plant them too close together. I see that often where, and I do that somewhat too. I just like my landscape looking full, and so I end up having to divide my plants and give some to my neighbors. But my neighbors aren't complaining too much about that. But just make sure that you know how big a plant gets. Sometimes you're surprised by how big they get. Also, make sure you're grouping plants by their water need, and that principle is called hydrozoning. That way you can water them on the same zone and not over or underwater. And then finally, make sure you're thinking about the leaf texture, because the leaf texture is the primary, the leaf color and texture is the primary thing you're going to see in your landscape. I mean, plants do bloom, but they usually bloom for a shortened period. So you really need to think about what you're going to see the longest, and usually that's the leaf color and the leaf texture, and then plan for the color after you plan for the leaf color and texture. Here's a couple garden designs that I put together that are award-winning combos. If you want a beautiful fall landscape, these will give it to you. So some really easy groupings of plants that do really well together. They're tried, they're true. The plants are hardy, they last long, they look good. They're going to provide you a beautiful fall landscape. So here's this first one. This is low water, not native, but adapted to Colorado. This next one is native, and this is just a good grouping of plants that will provide a lot of interest throughout the year, but also give you that punch in the fall. Some of my plants, I love the fern bush. That one is somewhat evergreen. You'll see those fern-like leaves all year round. They do have a really cool white flower in the late summer. I often suggest planting this in place of hydrangeas because this one requires very, very little water once it's established. Apache plume is another great shrub over there, and it has that fall interest of those pink bloom seed heads in the fall. And these look really good with that little blue stem. They contrast really well with them. And then you can always add in these beautiful perennials down at the bottom that give you all that bright color. Next, if you want a woodland garden, here are a few plants I might suggest. Start with a beautiful elderberry and then add in some medium-sized shrubs like Oregon grape and snowberry. And then for your ground cover, look to pipsqueak and plumbago. These do well in dappled shade. Here's some resources if you're looking for places to help you out with your design. Castle Rock has a great water-wise plant finder that you can search by plant type or water needs, things like that. Colorado Extension has lots of information. They also have Plant Talk Radio. They talk about a lot of different topics that are specific to Colorado and landscaping in Colorado. Also, the Colorado Native Plant Society has a lot of good information on there if you're looking for more information about native plants. Again, another great Colorado plant database through Jefferson County and the extension. And then Resource Central has a lot of great programs. They have the Garden in the Box program, they have the Flow program, they have the turf replacement program. So if you're looking for some of those, check out Resource Central. And again, you can always come to Parker Water. To our website, we have links to all these things on there. You can see some of our rebate programs and some of our conservation programs on there and learn a little bit about what we provide here at Parker Water. Finally, do you have any questions? I have a couple questions that were submitted. One is, are there some good evergreen shrubs for fall color? And yes, there are. Two I would suggest are barberry. They keep their leaves all year round. And there's so many varieties of barberries, lots of different colors. Oregon grape, again, one of the best plants for versatility in the landscape. It has 3 seasons of interest. Actually 4 because that red color of the leaves lasts through the winter. It's great. It's a great evergreen plant. And then finally, I should also mention another native Apache plume. It is a great evergreen shrub and provides a lot of seasonal interest. And then another question I got is where to purchase natives. So most here in Parker, there are a couple local nurseries. We have Tagawa, we have Pine Lane Nursery. They both have native sections. Tagawa has quite a few. Pine Lane has more of the shrubs, less of the perennials, but a lot of native shrubs. And I know they're working to get more. So those are 2 nurseries to check out. You can also get natives online through High Country Gardens. They are a great online nursery. They specialize in low water and native plants. And surprisingly, the plants come pretty healthy in the mail. So check out High Country Gardens. And I wanted to say thank you. If you have any questions, you can contact me here at Parker Water through my email or give me a call. And I appreciate you being here with us today.